it's nice to see you all here. And please, I want this to be an interactive session. It's not a presentation, it's a workshop. So if you have a question, please stop me at any stage. I've got a host of slides here. I think you all got copies. I asked, send copies out. Sorry, can you see them on the way? And just for interest, this is for both assessors and providers. We had separate ones, but Ecsa in their wisdom decided they wanted. It's also for all types of programs. So this covers the BEng, the BEng Tech, the diplomas, the certificates and everything. So you all have already had a go at this, and I heard you had problems. So I was asked to come in and go through it with you and try and explain exactly what you're working. This is something totally different to what you've done. This is total outcomes-based assessment. So the whole basis is prove it. And the old style of accreditation was an input. This is now output. And you need to get your heads around some of these concepts. And don't feel bad. When we introduced this in 2000, it took most of the university, the old traditional years, 5 or more years to get to doing this as well, because they were also on this. Any questions? Right. Sorry? Okay. What we've got here is the context in which we're doing it, a bit of background, the policy, and the process. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this, and then the criteria. And I'm going to jump a lot, but please stop me any stage if you don't understand what I've said. Right. This is based on the sections of the documents, and it's the context behind it. Context being a set of circumstances or facts that surround a particular event. Why and when? Okay. If you look at the engineering process, I'm sure you're pretty aware of this. You have the basic education, you have engineering education, engineering workplace, and then professional practice. Now, we're looking at here, basically this stage. And it needs to be the accredited qualification. Any questions? Right. If you look at it, it's based up of definitions, stakeholders, and operations. So it's quality and trust is what we're looking at. Quality of your systems and trust in your quality. So we've got policies, criteria, standards, and processes. That is the accreditation that we're talking about. We then have the evaluators, the engineer council that does it, and the Ecsa staff, and these are your partners. Now they're very, very important when you look at your stakeholders. The DET and CAT are very interested in what you employers. Your employees are very interested in whether you've got good qualifications, putting out good providers, graduates, students, of course, and their parents are very, very important. But one we must never forget is our Accord partners. And I'm sure you've heard of the Washington Accord, Sydney Accord, Dublin Accord, and the new one, the Seoul Accord. These are where countries have got together and equated their qualification standard. They're not the same. We don't want two qualifications to be the same, but they must have the same output. And that's where we come with the graduate output, or it was originally exit level outcomes was developed here in South Africa. So the graduate attribute for problem solving in South Africa must be the same as in Germany, must be the same as in America, must be the same as everywhere else. And I can assure you, I've been very fortunate. I got onto the international body, and I've been all over looking at qualifications. And we in South Africa don't have to stand back. They are better, yes, but we're better than most places, and we must keep it that way. And that's my passion, and that's what this is about, is to make sure that we keep that standard. Any questions? Please just stop me. Right, let's move on. You'll notice red, these are exercises we give to the assessors to keep them up to scratch while we're training, so I'm going to pass over them. Right, why did we do accreditation? It's for best practice, technically current, effective communication, interpersonal skills, team oriented. And we need these in the guys that come and do the accreditation visit. And this is why it's so important, in my view, for you people to get registered and come on these visits. We always need new people, and I can assure you, an accreditation visit, I know it's terrible on your side, but it's much nicer on your side. Right. The training round rules we normally have, that's I'm talking about evaluators, it's going to be presented, and I'll go through standard policy and procedures by the book. Their training session, all the visit is a place to contest anything. I don't like that, and I don't think we should be doing that. It's not on. If you don't like that, feed it afterwards. It's like that. Right, just to give you a bit of history, you'll see that we started way back in 78, when where everybody started getting involved. Just for interest, America started accreditation in 1935. Anyway, it took us 2 years, and then we had the first DN accreditation. That ran through to there, and we had Division 8. And then we joined the Washington Accord. And actually South Africa then established for the Washington Accord the outcomes-based assessment, and we've gone through various reviews, and we're here now. The technology programs, they started here with Certec was doing it, then came the Dublin and Sydney Accord, and Ecsa started the independent visits without having Certec with it. When we introduced this generic in there, processes of implementation, the UOTs were supposed to do it for various reasons. I won't elaborate on. They refused to, and only now are they getting into it. And this is why you guys are so far behind compared to anyone else. Any questions? That gives you a bit of background. The relationship, we've got a relationship with CHE, and the Ecsa document, your accreditation document copy goes to them. I won't waste time on that. This is an important slide. That's basically trying to put together the various routes you can get into articulate from one to the other. And basically, provided the curriculum is correctly selected, a guide can go right from here all the way to the end. But the curriculum needs to be correctly assessed, and we'll come to it later. But today, as it stands at the moment, a Bachelor of Engineering Technology, plus a graduate diploma, plus a master's properly curriculated, will be accepted as substantially equivalent to a BA degree. So it takes 6 years instead of 4 years. Yeah, any questions? You've got the slide, you can look at it. I don't want to waste time on it. There's definitely different stuff. More exercises. Right, background. The present set of documents, and this is laid out for all of them, is you have a policy document. Notice this is registration. Because accreditation for Ecsa's term is for registration purposes. Not for anything else. It's the educational component of registration, because registration is the right education and the right experience. So the registration policy drives the document. We then have the standard policy. You'll notice that's P, this is PX. P is for everybody. PX a P is the engineer, PM is the technologist, PT is the technologist, and so you go. We then have a policy, the criteria, which is set by here, and the background we're looking at now. And then there's the process and documentation, recruiting templates, etc. So it's an integrated set of documentation in the process it goes. These are the present documents in force. And please, guys, when you do have an accreditation, make sure you're using the right documents. Ecsa should tell you, I'm afraid at times no they're not, and there have been so many revisions here, particularly from 2017, that there are various different things in the documents required. So don't just take the last report and say, okay, I can use this one, because it's not necessarily the same. So be very careful and look at these. Any question? Comment? Mommy, am I putting you all to sleep? Purpose is, the key purpose is educational foundation for registration, as I told you. And then teaching and learning session is effective. The education foundation, and this is where it goes right back to the crux, is a coherent body of knowledge, skills and attitude preparing the person. This is why we have the so-called knowledge areas. This is why we have the so-called level areas, is to specify. So your knowledge area is supposed to be the same for a BEng, a BTech, an ND. The difference is the level it goes to. So we've all got to do maths. The level is different. That's it. We've all got to do everything. We've got to be able to communicate. We've got to be able to do this. The only difference is the level. Okay? You happy about that? Because a lot of people don't. And unfortunately, I've got to be honest, when the technology and the documents were finally established, the team who were there had no background and they went off deep. And they've got different names for the graduate attributes. They've changed the naming, which they felt, which was totally incorrect. They should have all been the same. And they will be, as the Ecsa updating process, they will eventually, ultimately, be all the same. Any questions? So again, look at it very carefully. Right. Ecsa gets their authority from the Act. The Act empowers Ecsa to conduct accreditation and to conditionally or unconditionally refuse accreditation. Okay? Right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
The other slide. The other one, no. Please. So this educational foundation is about preparing a person for undertaking training.
Yeah, for undertaking training experience. In other words, to give them sufficient educational background to go out into industry and start implementing.
Preparing a person for undertaking training. I'm not comfortable with that clause.
Well, look, what we're trying to do here is give the student knowledge, skills, and attitudes so that they can now go in. Don't forget, in the registration process, it's called training experience. TNE. And this is for registration purposes. So that's why you're preparing them so that they can go and don't forget they haven't. These guys theoretically have never worked before. They've been here at university. So they've got to go and start learning. And that was what was the P1 and P2 was about. Was to start introducing them that they've got to arrive at work on time and they've got to come neatly dressed and that type of stuff. Now, with the UBN's check and these things, they don't have any P1. So that's why that's important. Does that answer your question?
Let's continue.
Okay. Right, the objective, really, and this is very important, is to determine whether the graduates meet the requirements. And particularly the educational requirement towards registration. To establish whether graduates are ready to enter engineering. And establish whether they're internationally comparable. To assure the public that you've got a good program. And what's even more important in the process, encourage improvement and innovation. One of the questions we ask later, what are you doing to keep up to date? What are you doing to make sure your program is relative? And we'll see if we can get to that. Any questions on that or comments? Right. The glossary of terms, and this is very important, and that's what I mentioned everywhere. For the BEng, you solve critical engineering problems. Contextualized, critical credit, level pathways, deterrents, all these are defined in EO1P. Now, there's a big fight at the moment. They want to spread the definitions all over the place. The whole reason for it being in one place was that you only have one change to make every change. For document control, it's not good to have it in more than one place. But have a look at those definitions. They're very important. Okay, now we're going to look at the policy, and very important with policy is what we must do and what we must not do. And when we get to the process, it's then how we do it. Right, types of accreditation is the formula recognition. To meet the programs must produce graduates, and they've got to be re-evaluated at the end of each cycle. Now, this is normal accreditation, it's done every 4 years. We get checked by the international body. Ecsa gets checked every 6 years to make sure we are sticking to our policy. And then we have what we call this provisional, and this is where you people are today. Not yet producing graduates, but have completed 50% of the policy. Now, there's some very important concepts behind this. It provides an indication that the program is likely to get accreditation. That means those graduates will come out with an accredited degree. If the program is then accredited, all those students will have an accredited degree. If, however, you don't get provisional accreditation, it goes on for another year, means that those graduates don't have an accredited degree, but they need to be assessed individually when it comes to registration. So it's not a train switch, it doesn't mean they're bad, but it just means that they're not automatically protected. And they're handled exactly the same as any foreign qualification, any qualification we do. But this is a very important concept. However, it doesn't mean that I said likely. But if you get accreditation after the interim visit, all this goes back to you. So it's not a train smash. Any questions, queries on that? Do you understand that? I think that's very important. Right. Type of valuation. We have a whole series of this, and this CHE endorsed. We've got to go to CHE. You've got to go to CHE to accept this. We have what we call initial desktop evaluation, and we do this a lot with overseas countries. We're helping Mauritius. We're helping Botswana. We're helping a lot of, and they send us their documentation. We do initial. Back. We don't go to visit, go back, say, no, your program's not good enough, you don't have this, you don't have that. And that goes through until they're happy. Then we have this initial simplified, and then the full desktop evaluation. Now, like you people had to go through a full desktop because you don't have any accredited programs of the new type. And that's why everybody went for the full desktop plus visit. A few batches. Sorry guys. All right, let's change tack. Right. So the basic accreditation cycle is 5 years. For some programs and 4 years for others. And it's a period what it comes. Mid-cycle activities, interim visits, interim report, final visit. So the interim visit is if you have the normal cycle and you have any deficiencies, it's then deferred for a year or 2 or 3 depending on what's happening, and you require either an interim visit or an interim report. Generally, it's an interim visit. I only know of one case where there was an interim report, was it one of the universities had a clause in their policy that said that you could graduate, you could get a condoned pass and then graduate. Phew, when we found that, ears went up. Before we left the university, they'd had an emergency Senate meeting and taken out. However, they still had to put the report in. An accreditation in a year means the graduates are recognized for requirements. And also graduating class are those that are the year without re-reg. In other words, those that carried subjects didn't have to be registered. Now the important aspect about this is that not all countries do this. In the UK, it's the year you started that program's finished, not the year you finished. So you've got to be very careful when you look at qualifications from other countries. Malaysia is another one. Permitted decisions that you get, it's a finite set of decisions. And Ecsa policy does not allow terms to improvise. And this is the problem we're getting, guys. Providers are improvising, and some of our reviewers come in and say, we don't do that at our university, therefore yours is wrong. That's total no-no. So guys, it is very, very important that you stick to the Ecsa requirements. Any questions? The pathways, just so that you can see it, normally it's a regular visit, they come, you get full, you get accreditation, you then have the next regular visit, and so it goes. If, however, you don't get full accreditation, for example, some deficiencies, and it must be a deficiency, Ecsa can call for an interim report or an interim visit. Generally, it's an interim visit. Generally, it's something that is missing, that needs to be assessed again, and can't be done by paper. If at this interim visit, the problems have not been solved, either not, or not sufficiently, or refused to, Ecsa then will put them on notice of termination, saying that when we come in a year or 2 years' time, depending on what it is, if you do not have that fixed, then you'll terminate accreditation. We've had a number of these taking place in South Africa. Not many, but we have. And it does happen. Any questions on it? Are you happy about this concept? I'll tell you stories. Nobody from management here, is it? This year often has a magnificent effect for the department. We've had cases where the labs are shocking, they haven't been updated for years. Go that, next thing, boy, the management found the money to fix it. So it can be an advantage, not a disadvantage. They're the list of definitions. I'm not going to go through them all. We have a boilerplate, and these are the only decisions that the teams can make. No deficiencies, deficiencies at the report, new deficiencies, and so we go down. In line with it. Right, I mentioned the interim visit. This is quite interesting. It can be anything between 1 and 3 years, and a team must come on camera. The interim report, you don't need a team, it's usually half a year to 2 years, and the report is good enough. Education committee must consider, will not consider any further information after the visit. So once the team leaves here, any further information submitted will not be accepted or used for the report. Right, material changes, and you're going to start coming to this. The policies that may be reviewed if major changes are made. Conditions of accreditation that the university must notify Ecsa of any changes. And Ecsa can, on request. The reason for this is, if you have a major revision in the program, and you change courses about, some first year courses now go to second year, and this type of stuff, it means that each cohort of graduates going through need to have a separate document, or it must be a document, but each one must be handled separately. And we've had quite a lot of this at the universities, and you're going to find that that's going to happen with you. You're going to find that it's going to suit you better to move some of your courses to second year and some of them back to, as technology changes. So that's a very important concept. Any questions on that? Yes?
I think it was 3 slides back, where if you give a termination, and then you say, but then the universities actually pull out all the stops. So we say, so what's the status of the termination? Is there still a second chance after that?
No, that's your end. Yeah, so you're getting the last chance now to make sure it's right.
But
if they come on, so you get 1 year,
yeah.
okay, 2 years, and then 3 years. So it can take 3 years from the problem to be solved before it's over. So there's no sudden death.
Yeah.
But and we've had this, we had a case, and I'll mention it, where the faculty, particular faculty, lost all their staff. We had meetings with them, and they weren't prepared to get more. They ended up with one guy in their staff. Big problem. Now the problem was with those graduates. One of the agreements we had with that university that all the students in the program would be handled. They offered them a repeat year, and they offered them this, offered them that. But 52 of those students didn't accept it. Now when they come to Ecsa for registration, so that's the implication of this. Okay, anything else? Please ask, that's what this is for. Yes.
If I may follow a question, was that once the program has been terminated, what next?
They've got to reapply. That's great. They go through that whole process once and I've known 2 that have come back. The one didn't because the university closed down, but they come back. And just for interest, South Africa is one of the only countries in the world where every one of our programs are accredited engineering. In America it's not. You go to a place like Stanford and take electrical, they'll have 3 ones that are accredited with A, but they'll have 9 other different programs that are not accredited. Right. Material changes, it's vital. So guys, when you get to that stage, please make sure you advise Ecsa as soon as you're doing it. I had one on Victoria University, where we had 3 cohorts, 3 different reports basically, on those students as they were going through the program. It was a major restructuring program. Our policy is for this E10P, covers new degrees, provisional, regular, extensively revised. You see, this is the one I was talking about. Evaluation of the current degree programs. Evaluation of existing non-credit, if it's wanted, it doesn't really apply on some of the and the expiry of the period of accreditation. Right. If we start with a totally new provider, they must advise Ecsa. Ecsa will advise them on which is the best option to follow. And we're doing this with our labouring countries. Then you need to prepare a self-study report. And the whole thing on the self-study report is a reflection on yourself. Are you meeting the requirements? It's for you to demonstrate that's why it changed from something else to a self-evaluation, because it's a vital tool that helps you to keep the program up to date and everything. The team identifies, evaluates the curriculum, the grade class, and makes a recommendation. Now this is strictly according to the book. It's done strictly according to the standards. So if you don't provide the documentation that's required in the order that's required, it will be a problem. We've got a case now where I'm going to accredit them, and they've made their own forms. Form 1 and Form 1A, they've added other stuff in, they've taken it up. Tables, by the time we get there, we don't know what we're looking at. So please stick to the questions. Answer the question. Okay? Any questions? What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is documentation a big focus of this Ecsa imposition?
Sorry, I missed your question.
I mean, why is documentation the focus? That's
No, the documentation
the number one
is the focus for you,
criteria for.
and then when the teams
There
come,
are other criteria.
such as,
There are other names and modes for you to observe and evaluate. Yeah, I mean, that's, what do you observe in documents?
no. You study the documents beforehand to tell you what, and the whole idea that documentation is studied in detail beforehand. I'm busy now. I've got a 3-page list to read.
Yeah, this
So
is the objectivity.
what you've got to go and look at when you
The
get there.
objectivity of documents, in terms of evaluation, because
No.
it can be falsified, easily falsified.
The documentation is to provide you with sufficient information to go and assess. When we first started, we didn't have such a more complicated document procedure, but you'd go to the university and you'd spend 6 days. The whole idea with the documentation, it gives you sufficient confidence that you can go and now, are they doing it that way? Haven't they done it? That's the reason. Otherwise, we need to come here for 6 or more days. And you know what it's like, 2.5 days is bad enough to get people.
The ideal thing of the depth of your instrument is in question. The depth of that.
For example, you say you're measuring in this course, this gradient attribute. You tell us it. And when we go there, bring it. Where's the document? Show me how you measured it. All that's done in the team while they're there. You should come on a visit. But that's the reason. But the second thing, and even more important, is it's your reflection to yourself. You say, look, oh shucks, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We haven't got this in our
Yeah,
course.
at the time you have to do this here.
So it's a due purpose. And whether you go here or most places in the world, let me tell you, ABIT, American one, document is 10 times the size of yours. I got pile like that and stuff that I just sift through beforehand. But, yeah, anyway. Okay, any comments or queries, other queries? The self-study report is very important. The other interesting thing, as I mentioned, the graduating class, if they are different cohorts, then there's got to be a recommendation for each of those cohorts. The accreditation team normally is 4 people, never less than 3. And combined, where they are very closely related programs like in engineering, power and electronics, then we have 3 in a team and they work together as a team. There should be 2 from industry and at least 1 from academia. Now the main reason for having the academic there is to go in a bit more detail into the course content. So yeah, that is what it's like. Well, this is out of date, or they're not really doing it. So any queries? I mentioned the closely related programs, overlapping programs. However, there needs to be a team for every specific different qualification. So your the qualification that's registered on SACWA or HCCQF, you must have a separate accreditation visit for each one of those teams, for those qualifications. For example, in the electrical one, it's written down as power, or it's written down as electronics. There has to be 2 separate. You get in mining too, you get in metallurgy where they have extractive and various things. Okay, carry on. This is all how the team is listed. I don't want to spend too much time on this. The responsibility of the visit leader, very important. Responsibility of the team leaders. You see, here's the pre-visit liaison with the team members. Answer your question. This is where all study the report and get together and say, okay, this is the type of thing we've got to look for. Team members' duty. Notice, read the documentation, identify points for further investigation, and help prepare the reports. Observers. Often have observers at visit, and this was when they first started with the UOT new programs. We had a lot of the UOT guys coming on observers on the BEng program to get some idea of what it was. We have people from Mauritius, we have people from Zimbabwe, from Zambia, all over who come in. Mozambique. Like the education committee function, they grant and take everything away. I don't think we waste time on that. Confidentially, guys, this is very important. It's one of the most important parts. It's totally confidential. Ecsa and Ecsa people or any assessors are bound to not say anything outside about that accreditation. The only people that can say anything about it is the university. So until it's on the E20, they should not even say anything about the result. Was it good? Was it bad? Did they look nice? Didn't they look nice? Were they pretty? That's vital. The other one is that the process must be totally transparent. When I am going as a team leader, I want the HOD in the office next door, and the minute we find something, what's going on there? Get the lecture or get whatever. Then you don't end up with this, and we're getting complaints, suddenly on day 2, you say, oh, but you've got this deficiency and that never been discussed. It's very important that you're there all the way through the process. And the same with the triangulation. It's very important for the team members. You don't just say, a student says Mr. Lecturer X is useless. You know what students are. Now you check. Check with HOD. Check with his results. Check with his mark sheets and stuff like that. And then have a look at some other students in that class. You know what I mean? If you pick up a deficiency in one area, you must definitely go look for it. I'll give you an example, one that we've had quite a lot. The Ecsa credit calculation, which we're going to come to, was very, very hard. I used to talk to staff. No, that's it. Go and ask the students. How are you doing? How are they? Are you busy? Yeah. Are you coping? Yes, we're coping. It's hard, but we're coping. And straight away you know the calculations are wrong. We had one, and they're using university credits. One university only allowed 16, 12, and 8 credits. We don't want the university credit. Ecsa wants the calculated credits on the right information. Because what was happening, if it was 13, it got bumped up to 16. Because you couldn't drop it to 12, so it had to be bumped up to 16. And before you knew, these guys, you were expecting to work something like 60 hours a week. Impossible. Students are done with it. But we'll come to that a bit later. Yes?
Because last visit that we had, we received the report on our department. Now, with every visit in the past years, I've always been involved, and I've always been in the office or around the office while they were doing the accreditation. This last year I wasn't involved. But it appears that the report reflected concerns that was never discussed with the department. And now we have to report on their concerns. I feel that it's very unfair. And what do we do? How do we go about these concerns now? Training.
I'm sorry, guys. Much the same as you've battled these guys. I think, and again, all I can say is, when this happens again, immediately HOD stick to your dean, get him to grab the visiting. Don't leave it till the end. I can assure you that I always, the minute we pick something up.
Yeah, but then the accreditation team, they were at fault. Because they should have called in the people that were involved and spoken to them or discussed with them or asked questions about it.
I wouldn't like to say blame them, but that's, yeah. And I mentioned, I'm saying training. That's why it's so important for me to come here today to help you. Yes.
Actually, trying to take you back to the credits calculation.
Yes.
I hope there will be.
Oh yes, we're going to spend a lot of time on it.
Because apparently that is a very good reason.
Why? Just apply the formula.
No, that's a formula.
Just apply the formula. Don't think. Okay, now we'll come to it. The reason for the credit calculation, let me just go quickly and spend a few time, is what is the workload you put in your student. Not interested whether SACWA says it must be 12 credits or 100 credits. What is the workload that you're giving your student? That's what it's all about. And it's worked out. When we started this outbased accreditation way back in the middle 90s, Ecsa did a harvest policy. We did a survey of all the universities in South Africa. Went, spoke to the staff, spoke to the students. What is the workload of these students? How much do they work? And that's when we came right back there, that the average, I'm talking about the average student, not the bright, not the weak, average student workload works out to 140 credits, not 120. SACWA says it must be a minimum of 100. Doesn't say what the maximum is. Doesn't say what the maximum is, only the minimum. And we found that through experience, and this is worldwide, the engineering students work far harder than the arts or something else. They're expected to put a lot more effort in, a lot more time. That's where that formula came from. And as I mentioned this one where the university would have 650 credits, that meant the student had to be working 50 hours a day. They weren't using what they were doing. Okay? I'll come to it, we'll spend a lot of time on it.
If I may just add something later. It looks like, when you have this business of accreditation and the department or the program that is being, that's another question. There should be an alignment of expectations. Because if a program is not giving sufficient information on what expectations are required, then the evaluator comes in, and there's always going to be this the gap between the two.
Yeah. Look.
Because so
No,
I think what he was saying was that in previous visits, there have been an alignment that was achieved, and this new dispensation, that alignment is not in place.
You see the...
So somebody has to do something. Yeah, I think Ecsa has to really try to give us a good account of what considers to be good practice.
Well,
Best practice.
hopefully I'm going to do this for you today.
Okay.
You see the problem, and I'm not trying to blame. Ecsa suddenly decided our guy ran one training course, and all those people now are doing training all around the country. And they've got no background. Half of them have never done the accreditation visit. Anyway, but really, if you, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Ecsa's, an accreditation visit is a collegial thing. Ecsa wants the same as you want, good graduates. That's all we offer. The trouble is we've got to prove it to overseas. And that's why some of the documentation looks a bit sketchy. But it's for proof. When they come out, and they come every 6 years, they come and they look at two different universities, and then they go through. But your policy said you should do this. No, you're not doing it. Why? And if you, I've been on one where they've lost their Washington Accord accreditation. Never before. International recognition. So yes, I'm sorry for your sake, sir. I'd like to do something about it if I could. But really, this is where, and guys, please, you've got to do, this is collegial. If you're having troubles, get your dean to talk to the visitor. I had to do that. I was this leader at university where I had total contention in one team, and I was called in by the, and we sorted it out. But yeah, it doesn't. And it's personalities, we're not all the same, unfortunately. But sorry to hear that. Okay, you see, this is why this is so important. And this is why, again, unfortunately, a lot of our reviewers, they're not reading the document beforehand properly. And they get there and then they don't know what they're supposed to be looking for. Sorry, I'm not training. That I really hammer them when I'm training assessors. Sorry, in the last one. Okay. You see now, the process is now on what you do and what you don't do. It's in the E11P, and you'll notice on these slides I've put down all the policies so you can see where they are. And if you look at the accreditation definition, there's definitely process steps for the regular visits, the interim revisits, evaluation reports, essential procedures, post-decision steps, initial and simplified accreditation. This also includes a pro forma program for the accreditation team. Again, it should be stuck to in conjunction with the university and agreed to. Sorry, Mom, I'm away from you. Can you see it? I hate to sit down. Right. This gives you some idea of when and how an accreditation process. You'll notice it takes a year. Something like that. The dean's reminded of the visit. He's got to. We then train the training provider. And that's what we're doing now. also changed. The team, 2 or 3 guys should come down and train you here. And the objective is you should have everybody here, including your lab technician and your service provider, comms people, so they can understand the system. The dates of the program are then set up, leaders, everything, and then the visit takes place. You notice this is 5th month, 5th of August, it takes a year. And the logistics here, and this is where, very important here, there should be communication between the visit leader and HODs. That last 2 weeks before. We're picking this up. Why? What have you done about it? Or, for example, I'll use the credit calculation. I want to see the spreadsheet the first thing when I arrive. I want the spreadsheet available for me. Not expecting to try and post it, but I want to see it straight. You know, various things like this. And this you should all say, it's a collegial thing. Right? Essential planning, as I told you, the list of programs on offer, and the curriculum, with the course models, the full thing that's required in E13P. There's major changes, or this degree of commonality, for example, electrical and electronic, used to be in civil as well. It's in mining and it's in metallurgy. Run up, you see 8 weeks. Beforehand, the teams of guys, they get it. They get the documentation 6 weeks beforehand. Yeah. Then submits documentation. So that each team member should have 5 weeks to look at that documentation. So there's no excuse if they come back and haven't done it. The typical program, which is slightly different to what you people used to have in the past. It's the plenary meeting, private work, interview head. Okay, notice, right here. I actually want to interview in there. VC's lunch, you could visit lab students, and then interviews with the staff. Final exit interview. Any questions? Can carry on? Finalising the timetable against visit lead and the dean and the team leaders to sort it out. Notice 8 weeks before the visit. Post-reporting. This I won't spend a lot of time on because we have a first draft before the team leaves the university, a second draft within 2 weeks. This becomes draft 3 actually, let's change the slide. Within 3 weeks it then goes off to consistency reviewers. We've got another team of people who went on involved in the business who go through the report, the correctness of English, and it's consistent. So you'll see it takes quite a while to get it through. It always also goes back to the university for factual correction. Can't contest the decision, but you know, names are wrong. We didn't have that, and we didn't do this. Right. Any questions? Go on. Yes.
What should be the expectation out of the consistency review?
The consistency review, I've done many of them. It comes in, you put all 4 programs together, for example, that first thing, and you look at their deficiency. This one's got a deficiency that applies to to all programs, and one guy's got concern and one guy's got deficiency. So it's consistent, to make sure the decisions are consistent, that's one way. The language, have they picked up anything? Are there things missing? It's quite a big job. That's what the consistency reviewer's job is. He can't change anything, he can just point it out. Then it goes back to the team and they find it. Does that answer your question? Go on. That's what the consistency review is supposed to do. Right. Completed team must be reviewed by a panel of 3. Reports reflect the logic of consistent judgment against evidence. The recommendations on deficiency relate to the criteria. Can't say the program's deficient and not say why. The reports confirm the principal format. One of the biggest things, we've got boilerplate ways of doing things. And engineers have always got to be different. So they go and write their own thing instead of sticking to what we want. Because there's a formalized letter that's got to go to the Department of Education and to the VC. And then you see, refer the reports back, may not edit reports or make any changes. That answer your question? Right, let's look at section 5. This is now the criteria. Now this is very important. You'll notice it's all the different qualifications. Now, I'm going to concentrate on the general and then we'll go on to the diploma. Is that too short? That's the one you read. Because this has got diploma, it's got BEng Tech, it's got BEng Engineering. I'm talking around, I think it's the diploma you need to consider first. Correct? Okay. Right. The most important part, that it's totally criterion-based evaluation of evidence. That's why you ask the paper. The evidence we can look in the paper you get. But the evidence you can't, you've got to go and check it. That's why a site visit is, you can't get accreditation without a site visit. Structured questions to address the criteria. So the team should draw up a lot of questions before you. That's their job to come and say, now look, we picked this up, we can't find this, we can't find that. Help us. There's a structured way of expressing findings. There's a decision cycle. And there's a predetermined recommendation. Let's look at it. Any questions there or shall I look? Let's talk about it. Right. There are 5 questions. Only 4. There are 5. For you people, it's only 4. There are questions that the accreditation team needs to answer. Credits, knowledge profile, and design. Coherent design. That's criteria number 1. Yes or no? Criteria number 2, assessment of exit outcomes and graduate attributes. Criterion 3 is your quality of teaching and learning, best practice, and resourcing, again, best practice and sustainability. And then there's criterion 5, when it's an interim visit. What was wrong the previous time? And have you fixed it? That we won't worry about that. Any questions? So that's 4 questions the team's got answered. Of course, there are lots of parts to it. Right. Again, you'll see this one. I don't know what happened. Somebody took the animation out. These are your criteria. Criteria 1, criteria 2. It's from the self-study report against the standard. Does it meet? That's criterion 1. Criterion 2 is the outcomes. Do the outcomes meet what's required? Criterion 3 is teaching and learning and assessing outcomes. And criterion 4 is the resources. Do you have enough resources? Any questions? Yes.
I see in your documentation you interchangeably use graduate attributes and outcomes.
Yeah, this again is...
Carefully define what we're talking about when we're talking about outcomes and graduate attributes.
Okay.
So we're talking about the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. What happened was these were originally exit level outcomes. Because what can the student do when he leaves? That's where it came from. And it was used worldwide. It was developed here in South Africa. And all the BEng programs are still exit level outcomes. Unfortunately, as I said, Ecsa had got in their mess, and the technology guys did their own without having any input from the BEng side. They said, no, we're going to call them graduate attributes.
Okay, can I just go back to the philosophy of education briefly? The stuff that Ecsa defines as graduate attributes, or what you call exit level outcomes, in the educational context have been defined as cross-field outcomes, critical cross-field outcomes. Essentially, Ecsa has taken the critical cross-field outcomes that have been defined in the WE context, and they've used them as the outcomes for Ecsa. We have another thing called a learning outcome, which appears in the context of a particular material content. For example, I'm teaching a student something about networks, so there are certain knowledge areas or outcomes the student must be able to show in the context of networks. Now, these are different from the critical cross-field outcomes or what Ecsa is now calling graduate attributes. That's why I'm asking the question, when you talk about graduate attributes and outcomes interchangeably, what are we talking about? The learning outcomes in the context of a module, or are we talking about the broader overall cross-field outcomes?
We're talking about the international body, which will be the Washington Sydney Accord or the IEA graduate attributes. Stroke excellent. If you look at the outcomes specified by the International Engineering Alliance, which we've got to tie up to, forget the education department for a moment. We've got to be able to demonstrate that as a country in South Africa. Otherwise, we lose our international recognition. You know, you realize how important this is, that every graduate out of South Africa from one of our universities is recognized anywhere in the world because of that international recognition. Our graduates walk in and do masters and PhDs, get accepted for registration on our education qualification. Now, the SACWA one covers the broad field of science and humanities, and it's not specific enough. That's why the engineering graduate attributes are more specific. For example, they don't define complex problem solving. Typical case, it's not in the cross-field thing. They said problem solving, but they don't specify any level. And that's where that comes from. And don't forget, we've been doing this for 20 years. Unfortunate that you people, sorry, not you, that the DOTs didn't go in with it when it was there. And you know what the reason was? A couple of deans were going on pension, they didn't want to be involved in the new system. But anyway, cut that out. So yeah, with the new, as each of the standards, these standards are being updated, they will all change to graduate attributes. Just to keep in mind. But it's not, it covers the SACWA or cross-field one, but it's more specific. Better defined. There's a very heavy field. That answer your question? Or am I confusing you more?
No, I think I've really got the answer.
Yeah. Now look, it's don't forget, we don't even do accreditation on behalf of DOE. They're letting us do it under protest. No. They want to do it. We can't do it. But ours is for registration. So you've got to look at two aspects. In fact, if you go to India and these places, they have two types of accreditation. They have a program accreditation for registration purpose, and they have an institutional accreditation. Has it got a slot machine for the banks? You know, are there banks there? Is there a post office there? All that. What's their restaurant like? What's their food like? Is there health facilities? We don't look at that in engineering. Sorry? You asked?
Yeah, I just wanted to add this. Yeah, I think outcomes are outcomes, attributes are attributes. The outcome is an external expression of the attribute.
Yeah.
The attribute is an integrated, internalized possession of that body called the foundation and the authority, digested training and experience.
That's the SACWA one. But if you look at the Ecsa graduate attributes, it's the same as the
So
outcome.
it's Ecsa that started the confusion by trying to make attributes something else and outcomes something else. And so, and then now we all got confused in this.
You're right, but it wasn't Ecsa. It was the HODs and deans of the various universities. They made that decision, not Ecsa. Sorry, I'm throwing it back at your court. Now look.
May I just make a comment?
Yes.
and the challenge I would have with interchangeable use of outcomes and attributes very apparent. Because I would think that though most of them being intangible, but we at some point want to measure, want
Yes.
to report on them.
Well,
That's quite a significant challenge.
well, that's the reason why the Ecsa graduate attributes or Ecsa down are very, very clearly defined. The SACL ones aren't clearly defined. Not at all clear. We'll come to it when we start on them, and I'll show you why. So yes, I understand the confusion you have, but here, again, the graduate outputs, the credits, we're talking of Ecsa graduates. Ecsa credits, not SACL credits, not the the Department of Education. This is for registration. Okay? I think the problem is a lot of you haven't been on these DOE committees. They're not fun. Anything more about this one, or can I carry on? We'll have a long discussion about this one. Can I carry on?
Sorry.
Yes.
So on this slide now, the accreditation, we look at how the outcomes are assessed.
What they'll do here,
Sorry, sir.
yes,
The accreditation will look at how the outcomes are assessed. Now, does it essentially mean the accreditation by looking at how the outcomes are assessed, then it has looked at the fact that the graduate attributes are assessed?
those graduate and outcomes are the same. Huh?
Come again?
Graduates attributes in the Ecsa document is exactly the same as the exit level outcome. Now I understand why you guys are so confused.
That was my purchase also, so it's check.
Now the whole confusion here, and I'm sorry I'm blaming the UOT academics, they decided to call them different names and go off on their own street. Sorry, I was involved with trying to sort this mess out, and I've done it as best as. But by the time we, in about 4 years' time, it will be properly sorted. But I don't know whether you'll be worried. I don't think I will. Now look guys, I agree with you, sir, and I appreciate it. I've just got to be careful I don't get kicked out for saying, no, but it is a problem. And I think this is why this kind of conversation is so important. And I blame Ecsa for that. They're not doing it enough. And they're unfortunately not doing it with the right people. Not saying that I'm the only right person, but I've been involved with this from day one, right back in 2000. Okay? Let's move on.
Can we take a break?
Sorry?
Can we take a
Yeah, I think okay, sorry, I was waiting till 12:30. This is a good time to take a break. I don't know what they've arranged for tea when you're here. I haven't heard.
You mentioned in person that it is accepted that engineering students go through a lot of involving, demanding workload versus other career line students, other schools, other faculties. Now, how does Ecsa integrate that into the workplace or career life stroke remuneration packages? You are aware there is the generic position of equal work, equal pay. Now, in a place like a university, how does a senior lecturer in mechanical engineering, how does he do equal work with